We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
We are back on a roundtable discussion on the state of liberty and order circa 2022, joined by Liberty Nation's Power Triangle, Scott Cosenza, Jeff Charles, and Andrew Moran. So let's discuss the law. Scott, the Supreme Court is now squarely in the hands of a constitutionalist majority on abortion and likely affirmative action and other issues. How will their game-changing decisions affect American culture and liberty as you see it?
In ways that are more profound than we can imagine. If we just take one thing, which is the affirmative action, as you mentioned, and let's say that that goes the way that so many liberty activists hope, which is that the Supreme Court will declare that you can't discriminate against whites and Asians in favor of predominantly Black and brown people in higher education. If that passes muster at the Supreme Court, or if they overturn the current precedent, Tim, which allows for that discrimination, which I expect they will, that then I think will cascade to private enterprise, and I think we will see a retreat from this kind of woke hiring practices that we see in many places, which value not achievement, but instead identity politics. And so the closer you are to the favorite identity, if you're a trans or non-binary woman or non-binary person of color, that would be, I think, the highest
Make sure
level.
to get that right, Scott.
Yeah, it is tough.
You don't want to mess that up.
No, you don't want to miss that.
All right.
Yeah.
And then
Canceled.
it's like a sliding, the more value, the more kind of check boxes you can get, then the higher value you are. It's so many companies, and certainly in government and higher education. And I think we'll see the end of that. The end will be in many years, hence the decision. But the ball kind of retreating, or the tide of that really just race-based and sort of victimhood-based hiring, I think will be in full retreat starting the day that is declared illegal at the colleges. And then, of course, if the colleges can't discriminate on the basis of race, that has huge implications for our benefit, because we then get we really do benefit from having the best minds, teaching the best minds to do, whatever it is they're going to do in the marketplace of ideas once they graduate, rather than these race or sex-based preferences.
So, Jeff, the issue of abortion came front and center, of course, in 2022 for the first time really since the 1970s as a principal issue for the electorate. First, it was thought that there'd be a tsunami of Democratic voters, liberal voters coming to vote because of it. Then it was supposedly had faded out, but then it looked like it came back before the election, and it did motivate a lot of leftists and pro-abortion people to go out and vote. To what extent do you think people see the issue of abortion as liberty for women, as opposed to liberty for the most innocent of all, which is the unborn, who don't even have a chance if they don't get the life that liberty makes irrelevant if you don't have it?
Yeah, that's really what this entire debate hinges on. I was just having a conversation with some friends about this the other day, and on the pro-choice or pro-abortion side, they're selling liberty as, the woman's right to choose what she does with her body. But on the pro-life side, people define that as, what about the rights of the life inside of her? And that's also where the debate comes from. Well, when does it become a life? Because for most people, if they look at it as a life, it's harder for them to justify abortion, even if you're talking liberty from the woman's perspective. You still have another human being who is not able to make their own decisions. So I think that's what a lot of this hinges on. And it also it's also kind of a microcosm of how different people view liberty in general. And I won't get into all that, but I think with the abortion issue, it wasn't a primary issue, but it was big enough to make a difference, and it had faded out. But then, Senator Lindsey Graham was very instrumental in bringing that back when he made that proposal in the Senate to have a federal legislation on abortion rather than leaving it to the states. So I know there are a lot of people mad at him about that, but I think think that's why abortion made a resurgence shortly before the midterms took place.
So
Didn't his bill also?
yeah,
It was a federal legislation about abortion, which was exactly the opposite of what so many conservatives said in the wake of the decision, which was now this was going to go to the states and not be. And then didn't his measure also not contain an exception for rape as well?
right. That's always used as the big sticking point. Let me ask you this: rape and incest in the life of the mother, of course, all of which are pretty rare compared to elective abortions, which are the great bulk of them. Andrew, let me ask you that. You and Scott are proclaimed probably big L as well as small L libertarians. How do you weigh the right of the mother to control her own body versus the right of the child to be born?
Well, I tend to be more pragmatic just because of how divisive the issue is. I tend to think that, so majority of abortions, as you just noted, are elective. They have nothing to do with rape and incest. Rape and incest account for about a fraction of all abortions. So I think that if you impose that loophole of saying, okay, you can abort the child if it's a result of rape or incest, but you save millions of other babies, I think that is the realistic approach to take the whole abortion issue. I mean, it'd be great if there were no abortions, but the way the United States is today, I think that is the more pragmatic approach. What I find interesting, when every time there's an abortion hits the headlines in the United States, that has an effect up here. Every time it happens, a provincial leader or the prime minister will say, "Oh, we will defend abortion rights, and we will make sure that anyone can have abortion anytime they want." Because we up here we really don't have any abortion laws. You can have an abortion in the second or third trimester. So I find when that SCOTUS issue happened, right away Trudeau was saying you can have an abortion whenever you want, and provincial leaders just mirrored, even conservative ones mirrored what he would say.
You can believe that the unborn have rights, and also that you favor allowing abortion in the case of rape, because in that case, the female, the mother, has not consented to any act where pregnancy could result, and so she cannot be morally held to suffer the consequences of her decision. She has made no decision. She has had a crime committed upon her. And it's no tension, I think, in the law or a conservative perspective to say that abortion is allowed in that instance.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Jeff. And our power trio will be back for more analysis of the state of liberty and order circa 2022 in just a moment.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides. Entertaining, informative, and just plain fun. Watch Liberty Nation's The Conservative 5. Produced by conservatives for conservatives. C5's The Left Free Zone. Hosted by Liberty Nation's Lisa K. Donner. Joined by a raucous, irreverent panel of authors. Deconstructing leftist narratives. Debating the hot topics. And remembering to laugh. Join the official conservative safe space.
You only did that to piss Jeff off.
Liberty Nation's The Conservative 5.